So, a bunch of people were asking me about my thoughts about the battle rating changes that seem to be on their way. And I didn't really have a video ready for it, but I'm going to do my best to try and get this ready because I honestly, I want to answer all the questions up front. And also, it's a topic that I think deserves some time spent on it. So, if you aren't aware, the one of the more recent posts, like developer posts or whatever, talked about some of the new battle rating changes. Now, in this video, I'm only going to talk about the tanks because I don't know enough about the planes. I don't play them enough. I don't have enough knowledge to speak to the validity of those changes or anything like that. Tanks, however, I feel pretty comfortable stating an opinion on changes made to tanks. So, first, I guess we'll jump to the battle rating changes. Let's just put them out there what they are. So, you should be seeing an image of it's a cropped out portion of the changes made to battle ratings. Now, the first column is the tank's name. Second column is its current arcade battle rating. The third column is the new arcade battle rating. The next column is the realistic battle rating, and then the next column over is the new realistic battle rating. So, okay, that's fine. Now, the couple tanks that are cropped out are kind of inconsequential. They don't really change anything really. So I'm not going to talk about them. And the tanks I do want to talk about are closer to the bottom. So there we go. Now, the first thing you'll notice when you scan the two current columns is you see a lot of 8s. Well, that means the tank has, in the non-highlighted columns, you see a lot of tanks with 8 battle ratings. So that's the highest battle rating you can have in War Thunder Ground Forces at this moment. You notice next to all of those tanks, they have a lower battle rating now, 7.7. There's one tank that is missing though. The Leo 1 is not on this list. It appears to not be getting a battle rating change, so it's still at 8.0. The M60 is, and so is the T10 and the SU-122-54 and the Mouse, and basically all the tanks that live in rank 5, kind of. IS-3, IS-4, two types of T-54s. Looks like the third one managed to squeak out. I think it's already at 70.7. Actually, no. Yeah, yeah. So, kind of, where is this? Because T-54 in 1947 is at 7.7. The 51 and the 49 are both being moved to 7.7 as well. So, those are the ones I'm most interested in. You'll notice that around the middle you see a bunch of Panzer III, Panzer IVs, generally going down in battle rating. You see a couple American tanks as well going down in battle rating, like the 75mm M3 GMC going down in battle rating. But generally you see across the board battle ratings going down. Now, why is this significant? The reason it's significant is that 8.0 battle rating, you should not see 6.7 battle rating competition. So your Tiger 2s should not run into IS-3, IS-4, M60, T10s, things like that, Mouses, whatever. Well, if your battle rating 7.7, you will, and you will a lot, especially Russian tanks because the queue times are longer for them, just because there's a lot of people playing them, because they're, really good, according to the game. Now, we have to look back some time ago, not too long, and remember when the IS-3 was, I believe it was a 7.0, or whatever it was, doesn't really matter. It was facing almost pure 6.7 competition, and it was absolutely demolishing the entire battle rating. Just IS-3 won. And then they moved it to 8.0, and life was better, because now it's actually punching at its weight. Why would the IS-3 then be moved back to 7.7? And to make it even more difficult, the IS-4 which I think is kind of a better tank. And then also T-54s. Why are they being moved back? I think they're fine. The M103, the M103 makes a tiny bit of sense. It does have a cannon that destroys everything, but suffers from some problems with its gun mantlet, which may or may not be actual kind of bugs and things like that. The mouse being moved to 7.7, that one I kind of understand, just because the mouse is probably going to struggle against heat FS ammo and things like that. It's ultra high penetration, things like that. Okay, I get that. But the T10 and the M60, post-war tanks, the M60 particularly should be at 8.0 battle rating. It's really good. And the next question to ask is, if all these tanks are getting changed, where's the Leo 1? I don't think I cropped it out. Where is it? I don't know. So basically this means that all these tanks, all these 8.0 battle rating tanks, are going to be seeing 6.7 battle rating competition. Well, like, that's cool and all, but, like, why? I mean, the 6.7 battle rating was completely annihilated when the IS-3 was powerful. And then you moved it out, and it seemed to generate some sort of equilibrium. Well, what happens now? You've just inserted a whole slew of very powerful Russian tanks that are going to demolish the German tanks of that tier. Okay, well, you can say, oh, okay, well, I mean, the Leo 1. Well, the Leo 1 didn't get a battle rating drop, so it's not going to see that competition. It'll still be in games with the IS-3, IS-4, all that stuff. But when the lowest bracket of the battle rating is 6.7, which it will be a lot, just because of the player base sizes for these two battle ratings, yeah, your Tiger 2 is going to run into IS-3, IS-4, T-54s, M60s, all kinds of just T-10s, just all kinds of nasty stuff. And it's kind of like I don't understand. The big question I have is I don't understand why. Why would you drop the battle rating? The first thought is, well, maybe they're making room for something higher. Maybe they're going to push out the battle ratings, and this is making room for a new tier. Well, okay, that's cool and all, but why now? Why not do that when that new tier is made available? British tanks are not going to make the battle rating need to be 9.0. That's just not going to happen. One tank will not do that, right? Especially if it's 4 nationalities. So that doesn't make sense. Now, one argument I saw that I kind of get is, well, a lot of these 8.0 battle rating tanks, which there happen to be a lot more Russian ones than American or German, a lot of these tanks suffer from long wait times in queue. Yeah, because a lot of people are queuing for them and less people are queuing for the other tanks, so yeah, that makes sense. So in theory, if you drop the battle rating, you open up more opponents, and these tanks then have shorter queues. Well, that's cool and all, but that doesn't help the people who were trying to not play against these tanks. That seems to be fundamentally against the idea of having the battle rating system. The battle rating system is not to reduce queue times. It's to kind of tier tanks out with more accuracy than just a straight up 10-tier system, right? So you have more flexibility and you can change them easier and things like that. Well, I hope my point is becoming obvious. That doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. The next kind of issue I have has to do more so with it's sort of more of a social aspect. Hopefully, if I remembered, on screen you should be seeing another screenshot. Now, this screenshot is a post that a player, forum, this is on the War Thunder forums, I assume, because actually it is. It's on the War Thunder forums. And it was the Denisinator. I hope I said that right. And that name should probably ring a bell because I actually featured one of his replays some time ago. Now, the post itself is very long, and I don't expect you to read all of it. So I'm going to summarize. He basically in a respectful and pretty eloquent tone, describes issues that are present in the game and lays out some frustrations in a respectful manner. There wasn't any haste with this post. When you read it, you get the sense that this was agonized on, this was worked on, and the words were made, or the word choice was made with conscious effort, not just, a rant. And then you look at the bottom and you see a particular forum moderator's response, indicating that he didn't read about 3/4 or so, maybe a third, or about 2/3 to about 3/4 to 2/3 of this post, and moved it to the off-topic world. I don't know much about the forums, and there's a reason why, which I'll explain in a second, but that essentially the forum moderator deemed it not useful or whatever, and moved it with a very unprofessional comment. Now, unprofessionality from the forum moderators is not new. We've seen it for a while. But I think eventually, when it becomes a consistent problem and there have been efforts to kind of bring that professionalism back into the forum, and then it's just clearly ignored, that's a serious problem. And the biggest takeaway I took from this is and the post is well written, and it's a post where the problems that are presented aren't even, I think, the biggest problems, but they are fundamental, they are important problems, and they're not addressed. A lot of the kind of rage or the discussion about this post and its fate and all the things that happen around it, a lot of that's avoided if the moderator either makes a conscious effort to answer questions, explain why this wasn't done, why that wasn't done. If you do it once, you don't have to do it again. If you ignore the question or ignore the concerns, and you just deal with them in an unprofessional manner, they're just going to come back. You just basically punt it on the issue. And when you're dealing with a game that, in my mind, is starting to enter a stage where it's really going to struggle, it doesn't matter how much content you pump into it, there just won't be that consistent player base, especially for ground forces. I think air forces will be fine. I think air forces has actually reached somewhat of a decent spot. But I don't know that much about it. Certainly has a larger player base. However, ground forces, in my opinion, is in a delicate state. It's at a point where it's very easy for someone to say, I'm not going to play this. I'm going to go play World of Tanks. I'm going to go play Armored Warfare when it hits the open market. I'm going to go play this game. I'm going to go play that game. I'm going to go play World of Warships, whatever. All that becomes very easy to do when the developer makes it really hard to buy into a game. And actions like this just kind of push people away. I've seen, obviously I've really been around War Thunder from about just before the OBT or the CBT for ground forces up until, obviously, right, the present. So I haven't been around War Thunder a ton. But there is a fundamental, that's probably not the right word. There is a consistent train of actions that leads the casual observer and the more diligent observer to assume that the moderation staff are very unprofessional and do not take their relationship with the community seriously, or are just not attempting to foster the quality relationship that you need for a game with a large online community to develop and grow and thrive. You can look at the biggest teller for me is, think of large YouTube channels that covered War Thunder. You have the biggest one that comes to mind that covered War Thunder is Jingles, the Mighty Jingles. He doesn't do War Thunder really anymore. Occasionally you get a planes replay, but no ground forces at all. And he's been very clear as to why he doesn't do that. And I understand why he refuses to. But you push, basically, without listing off all the names, you've pushed all these big content creators away from your game. And you're doing it almost intentionally. You know, YouTube is free advertising. If you make something good, YouTube is just a big, in my opinion, YouTube is one of the more pure meritocracies. If a game is great, it will find its way to the top. If a game is bad, it will not find its way to the top. It will get, shamed all the way back down. Doesn't matter how much money you spend. So when you start pushing back or pushing away your community contributors, it's not good. World of Tanks and World of Warships actually embrace this, and they bring these contributors on, and without kind of neutering their voice, make it so that they can have an opinion and treat them with respect and things like that. Community contributors don't have to say the company lines. As a matter of fact, I would say they shouldn't. They should say what they think and feel. Come back to it. Jingles is a great example. He says whatever he wants to, and that's fine. And that's what we as a community want him to do. We want him to say, this is dumb, this is a bad decision or whatever. Or we want him to say, this is great, this is amazing, this is, take my money, whatever. We want those ends of the spectrum. We want thoughtful commentary, which you don't get unless you foster the community. And in my opinion, War Thunder Gaijin has done a horrible job with managing the community. To the point where I said I would bring this up, and I am now. The reason that our videos do not end up, or we do not post our videos on War Thunder Live or the forums, is because, quite frankly, I don't want Gaijin to know we exist. I don't want them to know that this channel is here. There have been times where people have commented, or I've gotten messages, and there are people who I know, and some that I respect, sometimes larger YouTube channels, and sometimes, and actually one time it was a moderator, I think on Reddit, these people message me and say, hey, it's kind of like, I'm glad you have an opinion almost. And the part of the reason that we don't, because posting on the forums and posting on War Thunder Live, that's an obvious no-brainer for our channel. It's a great idea, because you think about it, we basically spread the video wider. And if you look at it in terms of YouTube, putting it out there, putting it in the audience that cares about this, that is going to be the people who subscribe and watch more videos and interact with us, and kind of almost sort of fuel our creative energy and things like this to keep at it, because at the end of the day, it's difficult to produce content when you don't feel like you're a part of the community. You want to feel like you're in there, and you have people who are playing the game and come to your channel looking for content around the games that you cover. But the War Thunder forums and War Thunder Live are a prime place for us to kind of further reach into the community and bring more people to our channel to present thoughts to. Tank reviews are a prime example. That's something that can go just about anywhere in terms of War Thunder. It's the whole goal of the tank reviews to provide information in as unbiased a way as possible, and kind of give almost a how-to. How do you play this tank? How do you fight it? How do you kill it? And then back it up with gameplay example. The problem with the forums, and I don't really know much about War Thunder Live. I go there every once in a while to get to get skins and things like that for my tanks, if I want them. But the forums are just this place where if you feel censored, and I don't want to feel censored. I don't want the videos I make and the videos Phil makes and videos we make together. I do not want them to be scrutinized unfavorably because of the opinion presented. If I'm okay with criticism, I'm okay with disagreement. That's part of the knowledge exchange process, and it's a very important part, an integral part of having an opinion and being part of a community is debating things and talking about things and having differences of opinion. But when a difference of opinion is immediately removed and banned from, a place where it belongs, that doesn't sit well with me. That doesn't fit what I want to do. So I don't go anywhere near the forums. I never log into them, or I try not to. Occasionally I log in to look at something that someone posted on Reddit that takes me into the forums. I'll log in to look, and then I'll get out of Dodge. Because it's just not a place where I feel that our videos can be placed and allowed to present our opinions the way I want them to be presented, or Phil because a lot of times some of those decisions come down to what I feel comfortable with, and Phil, will agree, and he has to feel comfortable with it too. There's been times where I've wanted to post a video to Reddit because I thought it had that value, and Phil wasn't comfortable with it. And there's been times when Phil's been said, "Hey, let's post this," and I've been like, I don't feel good about it. I don't want to. And with Reddit, there's no reason to be apprehensive. But with the forums, it's always no. I've come to a point where I refuse to engage with the War Thunder forums just because I know that I know that I'm limited in what I can say, and that's just not good for me. That's just not what I want to do. That's not what I'm going to do. So that's why I don't go near the forums. That's why War Thunder Live, I really don't know what happens there. To me, I've been under the impression that it's controlled more, that it has more of the Gaijin sphere of influence. Like, honestly, the day that Gaijin stopped looking at Reddit, or told us they stopped looking at Reddit, they probably still do. Yippee. It makes my life easier. Because I don't want them to know that the channel exists. Because if they know that the channel exists, they'll pay attention. And you can say it's the easy way out, and posting an opinion is all about reaching the people who can actually affect change. But at some point, I just don't want to deal with it. And it's not really one person's job to affect change. It has to be the whole community, and as far as I can tell, the whole community isn't enough, So what can you do? So, all this being said, that was a couple different tangents there. So I have to kind of retrace my thoughts and figure out where I was. Well, let's go back to the battle rating changes. The battle rating changes, I think, the changes that are proposed are at the moment fundamentally bad. I don't think they're going to be an improvement on the current game state. Now, the issue I have is that I can understand these changes being made if the evidence was presented in such a way to should display to us why they need to be made. For example, recently the Minakaze, I think it's tier 5 Japanese destroyer in World of Warships, was nerfed. And, the thing is that it was pretty obvious why. And there was statistical data out there to say, yes, this needs to be done. There was in-game evidence that, yes, this needed to be done. And, it was nerfed, and I don't think its life has changed. It's still a pretty good destroyer, in my opinion. The difference, I think, is that a lot of times the evidence is made clear to whether the community generates the evidence itself, or it's made clear through statements and things like this. War Thunder, I think, Gaijin in particular, does not do this. They do not make it obvious why changes are being made, and they leave us to speculate. For example, some time ago, relatively early, I think in the OBT, uh, Gaijin said that one of the key statistics in determining battle rating was kind of lifespan, effective lifespan of the vehicle. How long does the vehicle stay on the battlefield? So if you have a tank that lives for a long time, in theory, it's killing opponents and it's doing very well. Well, that's not necessarily true. You need a composite of statistics. You need, okay, you need a whole bunch of things, because while I don't value statistics hugely, when it comes to handling something on a very huge scale, like the battle rating of a tank, you need tons of examples. And kind of taking the average and correlating and all this stuff becomes very important. So if a tank is on average destroying 10 tanks per death, so every time the tank drives out, it destroys 10 tanks, that's pretty strong, right? But that doesn't even tell the whole story, because what if it's a Yak Tiger sitting back at the edge of the map who happens to be a really good shot and he's just blowing people away? The point stands, though, is that in War Thunder, the evidence isn't there. War Thunder is also a game where slight imbalances lead to huge balances and imbalances in terms of, for example, win rate. You have tanks that achieve a 90% win rate against tanks that aren't bad, but just don't do well against that competition. We always come back to the kind of one of the better examples of this. And that example is the Yak Tiger. There was a time back when I first unlocked the Yak Tiger that my IS-4 and T-54s were achieving 90% win rates, and my Yak Tiger was achieving a 13% win rate. And the big thing about that was the Yak Tiger is not a bad machine. There was just no way to protect it. It was not able to stand up to machines that were designed to beat it. But that's the competition it was thrown into. And I kind of feel the same things happening just on a larger scale with a lot of the tanks that are being bumped down in battle rating. The M60 is going to run train. All those Russian tanks are going to be a real problem. And I really see that to be kind of I don't know, catastrophic's the wrong word, but it's really bad. I think these battle rating changes are too early, and if they're supposed to preempt something, they need to not do it yet. 6.7, I've always thought of it as kind of a toss-up, comes down to the players, but if machines are going to be, if you're going to up the competition that much, those 6.7 battle rating tanks are really going to struggle. So it kind of just ruins the entire sort of ecosystem at those battle ratings. And it's well documented what the 3 to 3.7 battle ratings like, that's T-34s. So you're just extending the blocks that I don't want to play in, which isn't good. But this has been a long sort of rant and ramble, and I wanted to get my thoughts on it out there. I think these are things that they're just bad decisions. They really are. And I don't think there's really two ways about it in my mind. And obviously I'm open to discussion and I'm open to criticism or even differing opinions, because that's what this is all about. But at the same time, I struggle to kind of get where this is a good thing. I don't see where it's a good thing. Even if, let's say, the battle rating was pushed out to 9.0, and then we have all these, like the T-62, like God forbid that tank comes into the game. I think going much farther than they have is just a really bad idea right now. They need to go back and fix. Gaijin needs to go back and fix what they have right now to kind of rebolster the community, which I kind of agree with what people are saying in the sense that the community around War Thunder is fading. There is, I think, a high level of attrition, things that other games don't suffer from, at least not to the same scale. So, yeah, those are just my thoughts. Feel free to discuss them. as always, I've been Corny Swiss, and I'll catch you next time.